get ready for Benjamin Knight Fuchs live on a Sunday,
who
baby.
Are we listening to? Who are we listening to? I meant to ask you that the last time. Who are we listening to?
We are listening to a minimal house, and I like it because it's somewhat agnostic. It's
What
just
is it
kind
called?
of
What did you say?
a fancy metronome.
What did you say?
Minimal house
Okay, well,
track.
I liked it. Let me introduce you to Marty.
Yeah.
Marty.
Hey, Marty,
Marty
what's
the
up?
Molecule. And this is what it's all about.
Marty the Molecule.
This is what it's all about. Marty the Molecule. You got to think molecularly if you want to be healthy.
Marty Tardy.
You want to think molecularly. You know, we tend to think in the world of health, we think of, and beauty especially, we think of memes. We think of images and ideas and concepts. They call mind viruses. You got to break things down to the molecule. Break things down to the molecule if you want to be powerful in the body and powerful with how you interact with the body via food, supplements, topical products, all the different ways that we interface with the outside world to create changes in the inside world or on top of the skin. That's really what medicine is. It's stuff that comes from the outside that interacts with the body to create a change, right? And in fact, that's how the FDA determines whether an ingredient is going to be a drug, is if it creates a change in the body. And that's a very, very important point, by the way. If an ingredient creates a change in the body, or in the skin, it becomes a drug. You can't sell it as a cosmetic. Keep that in mind right there. Keep that in mind. Now, there is a loophole.
All right.
There is a loophole. And I'll tell you what that loophole here is in a minute. But my main point is that if you don't understand the molecule, you're not going to be effective at how you interact or interface with the body via products, which are, at the end of the day, molecules. That's all I want to say about Marty. So let's go to these videos, because I really, really like this idea of me talking about videos.
All right, let's check out the World Wide Web.
Thomas Cowan. We talked about.
Should we keep ourselves small?
That's good. Thomas Cowan is an absolutely brilliant, outside the box. He's a medical doctor, but he's got some other credentials too. I don't remember what they are. And he's written multiple books. One of his concepts, by the way, is let's play this. Yeah, let's play it.
Play this? Okay, let's give it a shot.
This doctor shuts down one of the biggest myths in medicine in under 80 seconds.
Do sick people make well people sick? That's behind chickenpox, the flu, etc. Here's the first thing. If you get sick and then somebody else gets sick, in other words, is it true that if two or more people have the same symptoms at the same time in the same place, that means somebody caught something from somebody else? It's like you put 10 rats in a basement and then you put rat poison and the next day all 10 rats bleed to death. Same symptoms, same time, same place, but clearly they didn't catch it from somebody else, another
Exactly.
rat.
Yeah.
Right? Here's my point. You can't tell by observation whether there was something passed from one person to another, just like the rats, right? So you have to do an experiment with controls. You have to put 10 people with chickenpox with 10 children who don't have chickenpox and put them in the same room, etc. Me and my friends have looked at the entire medical literature for the last 150 years. There is not one scientific paper that demonstrates using true science that sick people make well people sick. And there's at least 200 studies that show that doesn't happen.
Did you hear that?
This doctor.
Wow.
This guy's brilliant, right?
This guy.
Really,
this guy's serious, man.
He has a book called The Contagion Myth, where he talks all about this. And like he says, it's never really been shown. We have this assumption: you're sick, I'm next to you, I'm going to get sick. It's an assumption. It's a total assumption. We don't know that I got sick from you. Do you follow what I'm saying, Liam? We don't know that I got sick from you. We assume that's the case, and then we build a whole medical model with vaccinations and antibiotics on this idea, which has never been tested, as he said, when on the other hand, the alternative has been tested. And so the reason I like Thomas Cowan so much, that's his name, Dr. Thomas Cowan, is because he takes ideas that we take for granted and he blows them up.
Blows them up.
He has one where he talks about the heart. Virus is another one. But he talked about the heart, and we all assume the heart's a pump. He says that's ridiculous, and he's right. How can a pump possibly pump blood 50,000 miles of blood vessels, some of which are like tinier than an atom? How is that even possible? Of course, it's not possible. That's not how it works. 50,000 miles. How's that going to happen in these?
Wow.
Some of these capillaries are microscopic. Come on, that doesn't happen. What happens is there's electromagnetism. The heart starts it off, and the heart actually generates electrical charges that start it off. But the whole way, my point is that there's assumptions in medicine and in health nobody ever examines, and he brings them out, and he's brilliant. This in particular really is interesting about contagion, because it is a myth. We don't know about contagion. The best thing to do, Liam, and everybody listening, is work on the terrain, work on the body. Work on the body's ability to resist disease, always. This idea of social distancing, vaccinations, there's a lot in medicine that we have. There's a lot of assumptions in medicine that we have to re-examine. That's the main point here. Okay, who's next there, Liam?
Who's next? Let's take a look-see.
Contagion.
Let's take a look. Who's next? This is going to talk about dehydration. Let's check it out.
What?
Still dehydrated. What's going on?
The number one cause is drinking demineralized water, because the water is taking the minerals out of you. Filtered water is what we drink most of the time. It doesn't have minerals on it. So what you need to do is drink mineralized water, and barring that, if you don't have it, is to get yourself Irish sea moss and diatomaceous earth. And that gives you the full spectrum of minerals, and you'll start holding the water in your body. Without minerals, your body can't hold the water.
Hey, Gary.
All right. Without minerals, your bodies can't hold the water.
Well, I'm not buying that. I'm sorry. He means well, I'm sure, and that's a myth that people say. And by the way, I don't know, Irish moss is seaweed. It's going to change your taste of your water pretty dramatically. I don't know if you'd ever be able to do that. But he raised some interesting points. Minerals are important, obviously, but there's plenty of places to get minerals from. And this idea that you're going to rinse minerals from the body, I don't know where that comes. You don't rinse minerals are tightly regulated in the body. Particularly the big ones, the electrolytes. So I don't think you're going to be rinsing minerals from the body with clean distilled water. Clean distilled water not only is pure, and it's the only kind of water we use in medicine, we're injecting right in the blood, but it also has a certain element of structuring, and it also has chemical properties. Water is very complex mass of molecules. There's various ways water is structured and shaped, and various what they call isotopes, which are configurations, quantum configurations. I don't want to get into too much quantum chemistry, but different quantum configurations of water. The ones that are produced in the distilling process are very beneficial. This idea of minerals and mineral water, mineral water is probably not a bad idea if you could find purified mineral water, but really, where are you going to get purified mineral water? Practically speaking, the best water is reverse osmosis and distilled. I prefer distilled. Reverse osmosis is good. Mineral water, theoretically, if you could find a pure, spring water that you were sure that the water table was clean and all that, probably is a good water as well. Minerals have a interesting way of interacting with water when they're in suspension. And so it creates a different type of water, which is definitely good for you, especially if you spin it in a vortex. But practically speaking, distilled water is what you want, or reverse osmosis water is what you want. And if you really, really want if you're interested in your minerals, make sure you're getting your minerals from vegetables, vegetable juices, supplements, quality meats, and quality foods in general. But really, veggies and veggie juices, best way to get these ionic and colloidal minerals that we always talk about, plant-derived minerals.
Outstanding. Yeah, because he said,
Next slide.
Filtered water is like, no, I drink filtered water all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, another thing you said about dehydration. Let me say one other thing about dehydration. In the body, water is not, most of the water is not ordinary water. It's structured water, which we've talked about in the past. And in order to really hydrate tissues, you have to have, the water has to have an ability, we have to have an ability to structure the water. We structure the water with proteins, connective tissue, collagen, largely, and then also minerals, like he's saying. So these ions and also polysaccharides too have a structuring capacity, structuring property. So polysaccharides, ionic minerals, and proteins create this kind of what we call easy water, structured water, coherent water. And to the extent that you're creating the structured water is the extent that you're going to feel hydrated. So this is the hydration properties of water are far superior when it's structured. So if you're missing collagen or deteriorating collagen, you're aging, missing minerals, you don't have the right proteoglycans, your extracellular matrix that holds these proteoglycans is deteriorated, you're not going to structure the water. That's really the big thing with dehydration. That's the big thing when people drink water and they're still dehydrated. You follow what I'm saying? If you're just dehydrated, you're not getting enough water.
Absolutely.
But for people who drink water, but they still feel dehydrated, chances are pretty good they're not structuring the water. They're not organizing the water, in which case using ionic mineral waters might be more effective for you, or building collagen might be more effective for you. So his point is sort of well taken. It's just not practical to drink ionic water with minerals in it because of the problems with purity. That being said, there are ways that you can get these kinds of ionic minerals so you can structure your own water, particularly in vegetables and also in supplements. And we have a supplement called fulvic cellular repair complex at Truth, which provides you with those structuring ions or minerals that will help. They call them minerals, really. They're not minerals, they're elements that will help structure the water as that you're drinking, or structure the water in your body. Veggie juices are my favorite still. Best way to get structured water, really hydrating water into your system.
Awesome. Okay, and so this same gentleman is selling some skin products. So I look forward to Ben's take.
Okay.
This.
Okay.
People keep asking me how my face looks so young and so good, and it continues. I'm going to give you my routine. These are my go-to products for anti-aging and natural skincare. So there's two things that I do every day. I use from Pulse of Life, I use the tallow cream, and I'm going to put this on right here. This is super powerful because it mirrors all of my natural oils. And then I put in right afterwards my Vital C. And this is a peptide-based treatment. Putting this on, and then I put on the Carbon 60 serum. This Carbon 60 serum is one of the strongest antioxidants that you can get, the Carbon 60 molecule. And when you put this on, it heals. You're going to be amazed. But
all right.
This is the best treatment to you.
All right.
That hurts my feelings.
Come on,
when
bring
I see
it, Ben.
silliness like this, it hurts me. I take it personally. So look, tallow. This is the big thing in skincare now, is tallow, beef tallow. First of all, tallow is rendered fat, okay? When you render the fat, you completely change the fatty profile. Now, some of the fats, it's a saturated fat, so some of them are going to be stable, but a lot of them aren't going to be stable, first of all. You're going to distort fats. You're going to distort the nutrients. You're going to lose the nutrients, a lot of the nutrients. It's still a dose of fat. That's what you're putting on your skin. He says it restores his.
And as we're on that subject, we've got a comment here. Laughing out loud, beef fat on your skin.
Yeah. Hi, AJ. Good to see it. So he said something really interesting. That replaces natural oils, right? And this is a real myth in the world of skincare, is that somehow you want to replace oils on your skin. There's no functionality to replacing oils on your skin except for the fact that you'll soften your stratum corneum mechanically. You'll create a softening effect, a mechanical effect. You're not going to get any healing or health or growth or stimulation benefits, which is what you're looking for if you have a hydration problem. I'll tell you how you hydrate the skin here in a minute. So beef tallow is really, to me, is crazy. But to compound the problem, the fat of the animal is where all the poisons go. It's where all the pesticides go and the hormones go. They get deposited in the fat. So if you're not using a purified tallow or a tallow from organic animals or something, even then, it's just crazy to me how this got. But it does soften the stratum corneum. And because we think softening the stratum corneum is moisturizing or somehow good for our skin, it creates this sensation when you put it on, oh, I'm doing something. Cocoa butter, shea butter, coconut oil, even your standard moisturizers, that's how they work, is they soften the stratum corneum. We believe through this hypnotic trance conditioning that softening the stratum corneum is moisturization. And there's not a person out there, I shouldn't say not a person, but 99% of people out there will put a moisturizer on their skin and they'll say, oh, I'm moisturized, when all they're doing is feeling the product and the softening of the stratum corneum, which is not a bad thing except for one problem. We don't know we have dry skin. You don't know you have dry skin. Nobody out there knows they have dry skin. They know they have rough skin. Nobody knows they have dry skin. It's sort of like this guy, Thomas Cowan. There's this illusion, there's this myth out there that your skin, oh, it's rough, that's dry. No, it's rough. You say, oh, well, what's the difference? Here's the difference. Hydration of the stratum corneum is meant to occur with water. That's what hydration is. It's water. Okay, right?
Okay. Not oil or the opposite of water.
Not the opposite of water, exactly. So how do you get water? Well, if you take a sponge and it's dry and you put it under water, it becomes moisturized, right? It becomes filled with moisture. So it's moisturized, moisture filled, if you will. Does your arm ever feel like that when you put a moisturizer cream on? Of course not. Ever feel like a wet sponge? Never. The moisturization we're looking for is not a function of cream, it's a function of water. But the question is, how do you do it? You can't put your hand underwater. That's not going to work. So what do? Here's how you do it. The stratum corneum, the skin surface, is designed to stay hydrated from water that arises from the bottom and water that's sucked in from the top. So if you can figure out how to support water, the stratum corneum's ability to suck water in from the top and to diffuse water or receive water from the bottom up, you won't have dry skin. So how do you do it? Well, nature does it for us. We screw it up, but nature does it for us. Do little kids have dry skin?
No.
No. Dry skin is a condition of older people, and it gets worse as you get older. So what is that telling us? Dry skin is a degenerative condition. This is what happens as we get older. We degenerate. So dry skin is the manifestation of degeneration and deterioration and health. It's not a cosmetic issue. It's a health issue. So then you say, how does the skin supposed to stay hydrated? Well, interestingly, from the bottom up, from the top down, from the atmosphere down, there's water in the atmosphere, and you have little molecular sponges in the skin, literal amino acids and sugars and various electrolytes that have an ability to suck up water, like a dry sponge sucks up water. Chemicals can suck up water. Molecules can suck up water. Molecule, suck up water. These molecules collectively are actually called the natural moisture factor, and they live in the stratum corneum, right? Nature took care of it for us. The natural moisture factor is intelligent, as the body's intelligent. When you come to a place where there's low relative humidity, guess what happens? You make more natural moisture factor. You come to Colorado from Miami. Miami has high humidity. You come to Colorado.
Okay.
Very low relative humidity. Excuse me just a minute. Low relative humidity. Your body compensates. It adjusts. It's intelligent. Of course, if we do something to the surface of the skin, it will never know that there's low relative humidity. It won't adjust.
Wow.
So what do we do?
Wow.
What do we do when we come? What do we do when we come to Colorado from Miami? What's the first thing we do? Right?
Exactly.
And then,
sunscreen.
No, not sunscreen. Moisturizer. Sunscreen too. That's a whole nother
Moisturizer.
issue. Yeah, we talk about that later. That's another issue. So moisturizer. You put moisturizer on, right? What does that do? What that does is it coats it with wax and oil, like this guy's saying, oh, it replenishes my lipids. But it suppresses your natural moisture factor. So when your lotion wears off, now you're really dry. And so then you go get more moisture.
And then you put more on.
Exactly. What's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over, expecting
Everybody
a
has
different
dry
result.
skin and everybody's using moisturizers. People have moisturizers in their car and in their purse and in their locker and in their office and in their kitchen and their medicine cabinet, too, in the medicine cabinet. Everywhere. We sell $10 billion a year in moisturizing creams, and everybody has dry skin because we're blocking the skin's ability to moisturize itself. So long story short, by exfoliation, you turn on the natural moisture factor. And by not wearing moisturizer and allowing your skin to adjust and making sure you're nutritionally healthy, your natural moisture factor will soften the stratum corneum. The second place where the stratum corneum gets hydrated and where the skin gets hydrated, nobody ever knows this. Where do you think the skin gets hydrated from? Aside from the atmosphere.
I would say it has to come from the inside of the body, like the blood
Exactly, the blood. Dry skin is a blood issue. It's a situation where you're not getting fluid from the blood because the blood's not circulating properly. Again, degenerative. As we age, our blood stops circulating like it should, and our skin becomes dry. Also, so what happens, let me just say this real quick. The blood circulates through the body, comes to the skin, comes to the capillaries in the skin. As it's moving through the capillaries, little water droplets are coming out of the capillaries. And the water droplets then diffuse upwards through different channels and through different systems until they come to the stratum corneum. And that's how the skin stays hydrated, through the blood. On top of that, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, there's collagen and there's polysaccharides or sugars, and there's minerals, elements, ionic elements, and they all act to structure the water as it's moving upwards. And this is how the skin is supposed to stay hydrated, from the top down via the natural moisture factor, from the bottom up from the blood. So if you have dry skin, you got a blood problem and you've got an occlusion problem. You're covering up the stratum corneum. So exercise the stratum corneum, make sure you're taking enough internal nutrients, and make sure you're keeping make sure you're building, using nutrients that build the structuring elements, the collagen, the hyaluronic acid, the polysaccharides, and the ionic plant-derived minerals that we talked about earlier. Ionic minerals, not necessarily plant-derived, but ionic minerals that have the structuring capacity. That's how you keep the skin hydrated. Oil and tallow is not going to work. It's dumb. And then the second thing, that was a whole, we don't talk about the first product. The second product, I'm going by memory here, was a peptide serum or a peptide product. Look, I'm not going to pick on the guy because he didn't really tell us what the peptides were. I don't know what it is, but it's just a standard skincare product. There's nothing exotic about it. And this is the way skincare products are made. I know the company. That's how I know. This is how skincare products are made. You take water, you take wax, you take oil, you take emulsifier, you take a preservative, stir it all up, put a little propylene glycol, silicone, and then you throw your peptide in. And you have a peptide cream. Or you throw two peptides. You have two peptide cream. You throw a little vitamin C. You have a vitamin C peptide cream. Blah, blah, blah. That ain't going to work, and it never has, because you don't have enough concentration, enough active material, and most of your product is there to build the concoction, the cream or the lotion, and it's not going to facilitate the movement of the active material, what little active material is in there. So you're going to get, I happen to know that product, but based on what he's saying, he didn't tell you everything about the product. It's unlikely you're going to notice a difference of anything. It's just a standard cosmetic product. And then the third product he talked about was C60. And C60 is a very interesting ingredient, and I use it. However, it's not the end all and be all. And the real role of C60, in addition to being an antioxidant, which you talked about, a very good one, is as a delivery aid, a carrier. So when I'm using C60, I'm using vitamin K and vitamin A and vitamin D and vitamin E and vitamin C and phospholipids and other nutrients to use the fullerene, the C60, they're also called fullerenes, as a carrier, as a delivery aid. So C60 is good, but it's not going to change your life. And its main, I don't say its main role, one of its most important roles is as a carrier, and that's not what that product is. That's just a C60 product. Nonetheless, C60 is an antioxidant. So that's my take on those three products. The way I formulate, I have a personal, as you know, I have a personal attachment to skincare. The way I formulate my products is I take the water out and the silicone out and the vegetable oil out and the propylene glycol and the glycerin and all the stuff that doesn't do anything.
Wow.
And I pack it with essential nutrients, because just like essential nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids are the most important ingredients for the inside of your body. Guess what? They're the most important ingredients for the top down, from the skin stratum corneum downward, and especially vitamin C and vitamin A. And I didn't hear any, even though that company's called My Vital C, I didn't really hear about their vitamin C in there. So I'm sure they use vitamin C. Vitamin C and A are the two superstar vitamins. Ionic minerals are very important as well. There's 2 fatty acids that you can use that can be helpful. And then there's amino acids that can be helpful too from a topical perspective. And that's how I like to formulate, is high concentrations of nutrients, transdermal delivery systems, and that's it. So I have
Outstanding.
All
right.
I have a special way of looking at this. Oh, go ahead.
Awesome. So let's say hi to Patty. She says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Love the topic. Say it like it is. Call it what it is." Let's give a round of applause for Patty.
One more.
Yes, we have one more, Patty, coming to you. Now, this guy's may have the answer to everything. Let's take a look at our man right here.
Oh, Muscle Man.
Muscle Man's got something going on. Let's see what Muscle Man's talking about here.
Damn, this guy's ripped. I don't know what's with.
Let me get some of what he's drinking. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know what's with the mussels, but they're not going to help with his muscles. But it's not a bad drink. I didn't see what the seasoning was, but that looks pretty awesome, actually. Ginger is a really interesting root. Turmeric is in the ginger family. I would use a little turmeric too. And the orange is great. Lemon. That's pretty good. More power to them. That was awesome. I always
awesome organization.
Make your own drinks, make your own veggies. That was a little more elaborate. It wasn't even that elaborate. That was nice. I would like to be able to try that. I can't say I'm gonna try it, but I think I put on the list of things I'm motivated to try, or I'll do when I'm motivated to try.
Absolutely. And we've got AJ who shouted out before saying, "Whoa." He's like, "Well, Pharmacist Ben, when the pandemic was going on, they had the plexiglass barriers.
Smell the virus. Yeah.
Smell the virus.
All that virus that was just collecting up there. You had to wipe it off with a napkin or tissue because it was all collecting up." We are so silly. I asked my mom when the virus. I love my mom, but she's not a scientist. She's a simple woman. She says, "I said, Mom, what do you think a virus is?" And she goes, "I don't know. Is it a little animal?" And back then, before all this happened, people didn't really know what viruses were. A virus is just a piece of information, whether it's in your computer.
It's like something out of a science fiction movie, right? It's a strand of mRNA or whatever wrapped with a protein, a lipid. Is that correct?
I mean, everything's that. All biology is out of a science fiction movie, really, if you drill down to it. Sometimes I think some advanced civilization from 10,000 years or 50,000 years in the future created us somehow, because we are an incredible science thing. But really all it is a piece of information that's encapsulated, and they're everywhere. These little pieces of genetic material, we call them nucleotides technically, but they function as genetic material. They're floating around everywhere. The ocean is filled with them. Your intestine is filled with them. The air is filled with them. Everywhere. And
bacteria are filled with them, right?
Bacteria have them too.
Bacteria.
Yeah, bacteria have them. Actually, I don't know if their bacteria have them. Yeah, I think they do. Bacteria have them. Yeah, they call them bacteriophages. I think that's what they are. Bacteriophages eat viruses. Yeah, bacteria have them. I think you're right. In any case, there's just little pieces of information that are everywhere. And a gram of your stool probably has more viruses than the stars in the universe. So just everywhere. And so this idea that viruses are this terrible thing, there are some viruses that can cause problems. This one in particular that was made a big stink about was a very mild virus. Did you know that? It was a very mild virus. The only people that really had problems with this virus were people who were very sick, which, as it turns out, is a lot of people, But to shut down the world You know, that was craziness. That was craziness. Although, you know, maybe from an evolutionary standpoint, maybe it was a good thing to shut down the world. They said the flowers came back and animals came back, and it was like, you know, nature kind of took over places. Even in just a few months, nature took over places, which maybe that wasn't a bad thing. All right. Thank you, Liam.
Thank you. I got one last thing to take a look at if you're interested. Got a minute? Got 60 seconds? Man, I want to hear more about this prize-winning
strongest vitamin C ever made.
Strongest vitamin C ever made, baby.
It is.
What?
Yeah, I'm just looking. I haven't seen this. It's not that it's as strong. It's the most concentrated. It's the most concentrated vitamin C there is, and vitamin C is something that's near and dear to my heart. And there's a lot of vitamin C products on the marketplace, and unfortunately, our misunderstanding of Marty the molecule allows us to get taken advantage of by poorly crafted products. Truth treatments are crafted products, and they're based on everything I know about the skin, about the molecule, about how the molecule interacts with the skin, about integrative health, that is nutrition and diet, as well as spiritual, mental, and emotional components, all weaved into a topical product. Maybe the spiritual, mental, and emotional components aren't weaved into the topical product, but the physical side of things, the nutrition in transdermal delivery systems, is based on my understanding of how to make things happen on the skin, which I gleaned from being a compounding pharmacist for people who had burns. People come into my pharmacy with burns, and what I had to do was I had to figure out a way to deliver a topical product that they could apply to the surface of the skin to accelerate healing. And what I did was I used topical nutrition. It's as simple as that. I took out the BS, which is in most skincare products, and replaced it with topical nutrients. And that's, in essence, what my truth treatments are all about. They're topical nutritional supplements in transdermal delivery systems. And across the board, they work. And when I say they work, I mean they heal. That's the true test of a beauty product, is does it heal your skin? Does it accelerate the healing process? And that's what vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids do. And that's what my truth treatments are all about. And you know what, Liam? That's the truth.
That's the truth, baby. And this one is just 70 reviews, just screaming off the charts there, man. That's an incredible
we have overall we have overall
rating.
4.6 on Trustpilot and very, very high retention rate because the concept works. We have proof of concept of a concept that has never been tried before in skincare. It's a revolutionary, paradigm-shifting idea. It's a disruption in a business that has never been disrupted. It's the first disruption in the modern skincare business. In other words,
really,
the modern
that's
skincare
fascinating.
business is 150 years old, and it's never had a change. If your great grandmother from 1850, when the modern skincare, or 1860 maybe, 1870, where the modern skincare product was developed, the cream, the lotion. It's actually developed way before, but industrially produced. And she got into a time machine, got into your bathroom and saw your products. She'd know just what to do. Boom, 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 boom. That's not how an effective skincare product should be used. And in order to really take advantage of how an effective skincare product, to make a skincare product effective so it could be used effectively, you have to pack it, load it, and throw out the BS. And that's what we did. And that's what this disruption is. We took out all the ingredients that are in an ordinary skincare product and threw them in the trash because you don't need them. And we replaced it with nutrients in transdermal delivery systems. And that creates a product that you only use 1 or 2 drops of, or a tiny, tiny pea-sized amount of, and you massage it in. You drive it in, and
it says right here.
There you go. There you go.
Apply 2 to 3 drops.
Yep. Especially with the mist, or biomimetic mineral mist is the ionic minerals I was talking about earlier. And they have some interesting properties on their own. Some water here. All right. Thank you so much, Liam. Thank you to our 5 listeners.
Ben Fuchs Unfiltered in the house on a Sunday evening. All right, Ben.
Amigo.
Thanks everybody for watching. See you next time.